Okay, so today, my friends, we are going to be talking verbs and adverbs. So do you all have your notes out and ready to go? Hopefully. Hopefully. Okay. Do this. Do that. Do that. Do that. All right, let's rock and roll here. I think we should be able to get most of our homework done before the end of class because the lesson today isn't super terribly long. Verbs and adverbs are pretty straightforward. They're not as complicated as like pronouns or anything like that. And you're probably familiar with all the different types of verbs. I think adverbs can be a little tricky, but I've got a special tip for you guys to help you out, okay? So we're going to start with verbs. So a verb is, my camera is blocking notes. I'm just going to move it real quick. But what a verb does is it expresses an action, condition, or a state of being. All right, well, we're just going to deal with it blocking for a little bit. There are three different kinds of verbs that we're going to talk about. There's actions, linking, and then helping verbs. Okay, and they all kind of function a little bit differently. And I'll give you some tips and tricks to remember how they function. But just know this. In order to be a complete sentence, you have to have a subject, which is either going to be a noun or a pronoun, and you have to have a verb. So verbs are kind of a big deal. They're really, really important because they're one of the two main requirements that we need in order to make a complete sentence. You cannot have a sentence without a verb. So they're kind of important. We're going to start by talking about action verbs. They're the most common type of verbs that we're going to see used. So an action verb does what it implies. It expresses action. Now, the thing about action verbs is you can have a physical action verb or, and these ones are the tricky ones, you can have a mental action verb. So the physical action verbs are easy because you can see people doing physical action verbs. So for example, the band marches on the field. You can see me marching. Okay, what are some other physical action verbs that you guys can think of? Shout them out. Jumping. What else? Running. What else? What? Yeah, walking. Okay, so anything that you can see somebody doing, waving. Okay, those are going to be physical action verbs. Now the mental action verbs are still verbs, they still express action, but it's all kind of inside your head, so you can't physically see people doing mental action verbs, which is why they can be kind of tricky. But for example, expects. The audience expects a great performance. Expects is still an action, it's just mental. So we can't really see people like expecting something to happen, but it's still there. Okay, so just kind of keep your eye out for those mental action verbs. Linking verbs are next. Okay, now what a linking verb does is it links a subject to something being said about it in the predicate, and the predicate is just like the second half of the sentence, right? That's why they're called linking, because it links the subject to something being said about the subject. Now, okay, so there would be an example. I am cool. Okay, so it's linking the subject I to something being said about I in the second half of the sentence, which is cool. These are all of the linking verbs. You guys have to memorize these, okay? There's no way to assess whether something's a linking verb unless you memorize it. So, do you have a question? No? Okay. So I'm going to, I got a little song for you to help memorize half of these. You ready? Am, is, are, was, were, be, been, been. These are linking verbs. These are linking verbs. There you go. It's going to be stuck in your head all day. It's super catchy, I know. You guys can watch the recording over and over and just let it lull you to sleep. So you have to know all of these linking verbs. Hopefully you're kind of familiar with them from the junior high, but if not, you just highlight them in your notes. Star them, underline them, write, memorize in big capital letters. Now one thing I do want to talk about is this second column here. You can see quite a few of them have to do with the senses. Okay, like feel, sound, look, and taste. Okay, those have to do with our senses. But all of these, they won't necessarily appear written like that in the sentence because they can be conjugated into different tenses. So instead of became, you could also have become or becomes, and it would still be a linking verb. Feel, you could have felt or feels, and it could still be a linking verb. Grow or grew. Seem or seemed, seems. Taste, tasted. Okay, so you can have different tenses and have it still be a linking verb. So just kind of be aware of that with this second column. The first column, you'll just see them as it is written. Okay? All right, helping verbs is next. So helping verbs do exactly what the name implies. They help another verb in the sentence. So the thing about helping verbs is they're never going to be by themselves. Okay, because they always have to have another verb that they're linking onto and helping. Okay, so when a helping verb is in a sentence, it's combined with another verb to form what's called a verb phrase. And all that a verb phrase is it's one or more verbs smushed together. So anytime you have a helping verb, it'll always be helping another verb in the sentence, so it'll be right next to another verb, and it'll form a verb phrase. Does that make sense? So helping verbs essentially will always be part of a verb phrase. So here's an example of what that might look like. The stadium is filled to capacity. Okay, is in this sentence is our helping verb. Filled is an action verb. Okay, so the helping verb linked up with this action verb to form the verb phrase. You guys all see that? Okay, now, one thing I want you guys to notice, so these are all the helping verbs here, but this first row overlaps with our linking verbs. They're exactly the same. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Those are linking verbs also. Okay, so just know to determine the difference, linking verbs are going to be by themselves. Okay, so if you just see one of these verbs and it's by itself in the sentence, it's a linking verb. But if you see one of these verbs and it's followed by another verb, then it's a helping verb because it's helping out that second verb. Does that make sense? Questions? Okay, we're going to practice. So what I want you guys to do is in this sentence, I want you to underline all of the verbs that you can find. And if you underline a verb, I want you to tell me if it's an action verb by writing AV above it, if it's a linking verb by writing LV above it, or a helping verb by writing HV above it. Welcome, Marcus. I need your homework in the basket on the back cube. And then we're on Pear Deck. You're over one more. There you go. Pear Deck and the code's right here, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks, my man. Okay, go ahead and finish up in 5. You did pretty darn good, you guys. What's the verb in this sentence, everyone? Here, right? Here. And what kind of verb is it? It's an action verb. It's expressing some sort of action because we can hear, okay? And when we hear, it's an action. So nice job on that one. Go ahead and try this sentence. let's try to finish in 5. Crushing it. You guys are crushing it. Check this out. You found all of the verbs. There are 3 in this sentence. Okay? Might is one. What kind of verb is might? It's a helping verb. Okay? Because it's got the verb, the action verb think right next to it. So the might is helping out the action verb think. Together they form a verb phrase. And then the one other one in the sentence is was. Okay, and that is one of our linking verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, be, been. These are linking verbs. These are linking verbs. Okay, what are those linking verbs? It doesn't have a helping verb, so it is functioning as a linking verb. Nicely done. Okay, last practice for our verbs. Give this one a try. Okay, let's try to finish in 5. Okay, not too shabby. Most of us were able to find the linking verb became. Okay, now remember, that's not on your list. What's on your list of linking verbs? Hubbard? Become. But remember I told you that the conjugations, so the past tense and the past participles and all those fun things, they can also be linking verbs. So this would be one of those examples where become, became. Become, became. Alright, it became, and it is still functioning as a linking verb, okay? Because it's linking the subject he to something being said about it in the predicate, aka the rest of the sentence. How do we feel about verbs? Feeling good? Show me with your thumb. Where you at? Where you at with verbs? Feeling good? Feeling fine? Feeling okay? Feeling not so good? Santi, show me your finger. It in. Okay. Alright. Moving on to adverbs now. Hey, I told you this was going to be a shorter lesson today. So adverbs is not going to take super long. Because adverbs are pretty straightforward. Okay? The rule for them is pretty simple. What an adverb does is it modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb in a sentence. Okay? So remember, what other part of speech do we have that modifies another word in a sentence? I'm going to say that one more time. Listen to my question. What other part of speech do we have that modifies a word in a sentence? Besides adverbs, what is the other part of speech that modifies another word? An adjective. And what do adjectives modify? Nouns or one other thing. I'll give you a hint. It's not listed up here. Nouns or sounds like a noun. Pronouns. Okay, so adjectives modify nouns or pronouns. Adverbs modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. Okay, so you just have to be careful when you're looking at a word that's modifying another word. You have to ask yourself, okay, what word is it modifying? If it's modifying a noun or a pronoun, then it's an adjective. If it's modifying a verb, adjective, or another adverb, then it's going to be an adverb. Okay, and we'll look at some examples here. Now, remember, we had those adjective questions that helped us determine if a word we were looking at was an adjective, who remembers the adjective questions? / who wants to look off their notes and read them to me? Because you all have them in front of you. Happy Wednesday. Some of you are sleeping on me. Lauren, what are our adjective questions? Yes, what kind, which one, how many, or how much? Our adverb questions, you guys, are where, when, why, how, or to what extent. Okay, so these are going to be important because if you can answer one of these questions, then you know what you're looking at is an adverb. If you can answer one of the adjective questions, then you know what you're looking at is an adjective. So the questions are super helpful because I think one of the hardest things about parts of speech is determining if something is an adjective or an adverb, and the questions are going to help with that. Have I emphasized the importance of the questions enough? They're super duper important, okay? All right, so take a look at this example of an adverb. We instantly recognized him, okay? Recognized is the verb of the sentence. It's an action verb. Instantly is telling us when we recognized him. Okay, so it's answering that when question, which means it's an adverb. Plus, it's modifying the verb. And adverbs will modify a verb. Does that make sense? Now, here's the other thing. Another little tip I'm going to give you about adverbs. Going back to adjectives, where did I say that adjectives will normally be in relation to the word they're modifying? Where are adjectives normally located in relation to the word they're modifying? I know Malachi was paying attention to me. Was anybody else paying attention yesterday? Where will adjectives be in relation to the noun or pronoun they're modifying? Will it be at the end of the sentence and the noun or pronoun will be at the start? Malachi, where will it be? Where will the adjective be in relation to the noun or pronoun it's modifying? Before it. Directly before it. Like 99% of the time, your adjectives are going to come right before the noun or pronoun they're modifying, and they will answer one of those adjective questions. Adverbs, they're the rebels of the parts of speech because they don't follow that rule. This is an odd example because this one comes right before the word it's modifying. But adverbs, they do their own thing. Sometimes they'll be like 4 words away. Sometimes the adverbs will be at the start of the sentence and the word they're modifying will be at the end, and vice versa. Okay, so adverbs are going to be all over the place in the sentence. They're not going to necessarily be right next to the word they're modifying. So that's where these adverb questions come into play. Okay, you have to use the adjective and adverb questions. Let's practice. So here, I want you to underline each adverb and draw an arrow to the word it's modifying. And you better be sure that you can answer one of those adverb questions when you're drawing your arrow. Okay, let's try to finish in 5. Okay, either I have a room full of geniuses or I'm like crushing it as a teacher, or maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know, but you guys totally knocked it out of the park. Check it out. I think we got it, okay? Now, one thing that you probably learned in junior high, if you've done adverbs before, is that a lot of adverbs will end in ly. Raise your hand if you've ever heard that rule. Adverbs end in ly. Yeah, that's true for quite a few adverbs, but not all of them. So you got to be careful. So I feel like this one was pretty easy because we did have an adverb that ended in ly, right? Tirelessly ends in ly, and it's modifying the word right next to it, which again, doesn't always happen. Okay, it's modifying devoted. Tirelessly is telling us to what extent we're devoted. Okay, so it's answering that to what extent question with the adverbs. Nice job. Okay, let's try this one. Underline the adverbs, draw an arrow to the word it's modifying. Just be careful you're not underlining the verb, okay? Because a verb is never going to be an adverb, right? They're different parts of speech. So do not underline the verb in the sentence. Let's try to finish in 5. Okay, now this one was hard because we don't have any adverbs that end in ly in this sentence. So you really had to think through all of the words in this sentence. And if you can think through and figure out, okay, where's the subject, where's the verb, and then how are my other words in the sentence functioning? There's only one person that got this right. Only one. Most of you got it like part of the way right. Okay? Only one person got it 100%. So let's break it down here. Where's the subject of our sentence? Where's our noun or pronoun that the sentence is about? He. He is our subject, so that can't be an adverb, right? So we get rid of that. Where's our verb? Worked is our verb. It's the only one that's showing like an action. We don't have any linking verbs in there. Okay, so worked is our verb, so that can't be our adverb either. So then we have these two words left in the sentence, often and late. We have to ask ourselves, okay, are they answering one of our adverb questions? What word in the sentence are they modifying? Well, guess what, you guys? There's only two other words in the sentence they can modify. They could modify he or they could modify worked. So, Lauren asked herself those adverb questions, and she figured out, well, hey, both of those words that are remaining are adverbs, and they're both modifying worked. Often is telling us to what extent he worked, and late is telling us when he worked. Okay, so they are both. You didn't put the arrow. Yeah, I'm missing the arrow. You're right, though. You underlined both of them. You are right. Okay, so both of these adverbs answered one of those adverb questions, and they're both modifying the verb. Okay, do you guys see that? Most of you were able to get often, right? I think that one was the one that the majority of you got, but we just missed that second one. So always make sure you're looking and figuring out how every word in the sentence is functioning. Okay, I have one more practice for you. Don't freak out. This is going to be a tough one. Okay? I'm telling you it's tough. And I'm going to give you a hint. There's more than one adverb in this sentence. All right, let's try to finish up this one in 5. Okay, I told you this one was hard. This one was really hard. I think most of you were able to get at least one of the 4 adverbs that are in this sentence. Yes, there are 4. And you guys, this one is really tricky because we haven't yet learned one of the rules that's happening in this sentence. So this one's a really hard one. So the first 2 adverbs in the sentence are nocturnal and piano. And the reason that those are adverbs is because they're modifying playing. And playing I'm probably just going to confuse you. It's what's called a gerund, and gerunds are actually a type of verb. Okay, so you were probably able to figure out, okay, well this looks like a verb, and since these 2 are modifying the verb, then they have to be an adverb, right? So if you didn't get those ones, don't worry about it because we haven't technically learned that rule yet. But there are the other 2 in the sentence that we have learned the rule for, okay? One of them is very, okay? It's telling us to what extent he's unpopular. So it's answering one of those adverb questions, to what extent, and it's modifying an adjective, okay? And then the second one is more. It's telling us to what extent his neighbors are conventional, okay? And conventional is an adjective. So remember, adverbs can modify adjectives too. Okay, so more would be another adverb. How'd you guys do? How many did you get? Hold it up on your fingers. 1, 2, 3, or 4? 0. Okay, if you got 0, this one was real hard. Okay. Go ahead and tell me how you're feeling about today's lesson. Remember, this is only for my eyes. I'm the only one that's going to see it, so be honest. And finish in 5. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so our homework tonight. You guys have another no red ink assignment. Okay, so you guys can go ahead right now and go to noredink.com. And you should see an assignment there that's titled Verbs and Adverbs Practice. Now, when you guys click on it, I'm going to kind of look here. You have to make sure that you complete all of it. Okay, so you're going to see like these little bubbles. Yeah. Okay, you're going to see these little bubbles, these circles. Okay, kind of looks like this, like all of these little circles. Once you click on the assignment, you have to make sure that you go through all of the circles. Each of those circles is a different activity. So what you guys need to do is you need to make sure that all of the circles get filled green, I believe is what they'll get filled. Does anybody know? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they get filled green, and then you get like a little check mark in the middle to show that it's done. Okay, so just make sure that you're doing all of the bubble activities for the verb and adverb assignment on No Ready. Okay, now take your time with it because you probably figured out when you were doing the diagnostic quiz, if you get one wrong, it's going to ask you another one, and another one, and another one, until you get 3 in a row right. So you have to take your time. If you have questions, ask. Use your notes. Okay, use your notes. Do you guys have any questions on the lesson or on the homework? Making sense? Know what we're doing? So, click play on the assignment. Yep. And then it should complete. Yeah, so those are the bubbles I'm talking about. Okay? Yeah, perfect. All right, so you guys have the rest of the period to work on this. I believe no writing saves your progress, right? Does it save your progress if you don't get all the way done? I don't know for sure. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I think it does. And what I'm going to do with your homework, you guys, so real quick, look at me. I know you're all super excited to get started on your homework. With grammar, I don't believe in grading your homework for accuracy because you're still learning. Okay, so what I do with grammar homework is I give you a completion grade. So as long as you did all of the work, you got 100%. what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get it in my grade book right now. I'll give it back to you. And tonight, I'm going to post the answer key for that worksheet you did as your homework last night on Google Classroom. It's my expectation of you that you go and you compare your homework to the answer key to see what you got wrong and to learn from your mistakes for the test that's coming up in a week or two. Okay, so that's how you're going to study. Just use your homework and the answer key I post online as a study tool. Capiche? Thanks, Elmer. All right, I'll let you guys get to work.